Ready.
Thank you. First of all, Happy New Year to all. Hopefully it will be a good and safe one for all. And welcome to the first meeting of the Finance Committee for the year 2020. First up on the agenda is the adoption of the meeting minutes from the December 10th meeting of the Finance Committee, which I believe was chaired by the Honorable Chairman, Mr. Alpani, who did a magnificent job.
The chairman.
Yes, thank you. So can I please get a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from that meeting? Thank you very much,
Second.
Tracy. Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Hearing none, that carries. So we have a very busy agenda for 2020. We're off to a good start, Portia and company. Thank you very much. First up is Gerard up with Montefiore. So Portia or Gerard, whoever's going to.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a little introduction here. We're presenting the Montefiore transaction to the Finance Committee as a single approval. We have been working with the Department of Health on this financing. DOH is supportive, and they'll speak to that later. We would have liked to have brought this transaction, the Montefiore transaction, to the December meeting as a resolution to proceed, but it was not ready at that time. Montefiore's schedule calls for them to be in the market in January. As such, we're bringing this Montefiore transaction to the board and the Finance Committee at this meeting as a single approval. We're requesting that you consider this as an exception because Montefiore is rated in the BBB category, and our single approval guidelines reflect that single approval is offered to higher ed and healthcare institutions rated in the A category or better. As you'll recall, we just did a Montefiore transaction last year. As you know, also we've been working very hard to bring private clients back to DASNY, particularly on the healthcare side, while we were mindful of our guidelines. We also wanted to ensure that all parties, including the Department of Health, had sufficient time to review this financing. It should be noted that there's no DOH approval memo included in the package here because we're financing this pursuant to the DASNY statute and not the MCFA statute. And really in an effort to balance the needs of all parties, we're requesting consideration of this financing as a single approval and on an exception basis. Gerard will present the financing, but if there are any questions just on the procedural aspects, happy to take them.
Not here.
Okay. Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee. The staff report provided to the members is seeking authorization for the Montefiore Obligated Group Series 2020 bonds. This will be a publicly offered or privately placed bond issue in an amount not to exceed $420 million and a term not to exceed 30 years. Bonds may be issued in one or more series as tax exempt and or taxable in a fixed and or a variable rate mode. The hospital's primary service area is the Bronx in southern Westchester County, where their hospital holds a 35% market share. The hospital's occupancy rate has been consistently high and was 89.17% in 2018, which is above the regional and DASNY medians. The financing that you are considering today will include the construction of the White Plains Hospital and various capital projects at Montefiore Medical Center, including cardiology, imaging, pharmacy, and information technology equipment. The transaction also includes the refunding of the Build New York City Resource Corporation Revenue Bond, Series 2013A and 2013B, Montefiore Medical Center project, in the amount of $57.6 million. It is estimated that the refunding will produce $3.3 million of net present value savings. The hospital's financial performance may allow the hospital to issue unenhanced debt. The financing is expected to produce level debt service. Security provisions. An obligation issued on their master trust indenture will be secured by a pledge of the medical center's gross receipts, a debt service reserve fund if required by investors, a mortgage on the medical center facilities if required by the investors. Some financial highlights include the medical center has been profitable over the past 5 years with an average operating gain of $31.5 million, with the highest gain of $56.5 million in 2017. Other items worth noting include 49 days cash on hand, a current ratio of 2.59, and a debt service coverage ratio of 3.84, all of which are above the regional medians and above or in line with the DASNY medians. It is expected that the medical center will concurrently issue taxable debt away from DASNY. The medical center would like to take advantage of the currently favorable rates and the flexibility to address the upcoming projects on the near horizon. Currently, the medical center is rated BBB flat. The medical center expects to maintain a rating in the BBB category. Approvals. The PACB approval is anticipated on January 15th, 2020. The TEFRA has been posted and it's pending approval, anticipated January 17th, 2020. And our seeker approval is anticipated tomorrow, January 8th, 2020. Staff recommends that the board adopt documents for one or more series of 30-year taxable and or tax exempt fixed and or variable rate bonds at an amount not to exceed $420 million. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Gerard. Questions or concerns? Mr. Chair? And maybe we could hear from if health. Tracy, if you could be so kind to please just give us the health, because I realize there's no actual memo.
That's right.
Because we're proceeding under the DASNY Act, not the.
That's correct. That's correct. And I'd be happy to. We've been.
So please, thank you, please.
We took the additional time to work with Montefiore. I'll just point out what's already in the staff report, that Montefiore, not a surprise to many at the table, is an essential provider of services, not only to the Bronx, but to the surrounding communities, and has been working with the department on their various strategic plans as well as challenges. The issuance that we did collectively in 2008 really positioned Montefiore for the future in terms of getting them out from under the HUD financing, giving them more in general financial flexibility. We confirmed that this particular tax exempt issuance was contemplated at the time of the 2018 issuance in the underlying discussions with the rating agencies. So as far as this issuance before DASNY, the tax exempt issuance, that is not expected to change the existing BBB rating, and it was actually contemplated at the time. So that gave us comfort. We spent some time discussing what the proposed plans and strategy were around the potential taxable issuance that they are contemplating, which is not before us as a board, but is significant to understand in the overall scheme of their balance sheet, because while it's noted there is sufficient liquidity, in part generated from the issuance that we did in 2018 that was strategic, the balance sheet does show leverage when you look at the debt to capitalization ratios. So the response and the strategy behind that is, while the market has a relatively flat yield curve and the interest rate environment is low, and there's uncertainties both in, certainly always in healthcare, but also general uncertainties and the need to have capital available. The thought is to go to the market on a taxable basis. They're still working through the tranches of what they would borrow. They will not jeopardize, they will limit the amount of borrowing so as not to jeopardize the investment grade rating. It's uncertain whether that will go down a notch, but it would still be an investment grade at BBB minus. That is, they expect to conclude those discussions mid-month. The rating agency discussions are going well. We confirm that. The strategy is really to keep that capital available on the balance sheet, to keep the liquidity of the organization, and then invest it strategically. And we confirmed, we never want to see an organization leverage to taxably for working capital purposes. That will not be used in that way, and they've confirmed that. It's really to help the new leadership who's there to strategically invest in where the organization needs to go going forward. Also to be stated is that they are relooking at their growth strategy, which was also comforting to us to hear. They have acquired many distressed facilities, which is also helping the department in developing stabilization plans for these communities. But at this rate, we agree that it's perhaps time to take a bit of a pause in how they're interacting with the other community builds. So, they have indicated that to us, as well as after this taxable issuance, should they do it, they do not anticipate any future borrowing at this time. So I think all that being said, this particular issuance is part of their strategic plan. It is the White Plains Hospital investment, which is a project that is already underway. It's already being constructed. It's a great project. The department supports it. It consolidates all of the ambulatory care services into one convenient location from within the hospital. It's giving White Plains a very potential good cost of capital for that investment. And it fits in with their strategy, which is to increase the services at that particular hospital. It's part of the overall system strategy. So with all those things being said, we are supportive of the financing, even though we don't have a formal recommendation.
And the need, the White Plains Hospital piece, there's from health, there's a sort of a need for that facility. I have 3 children, by the way, were born actually at White Plains Hospital.
And
I can support
Special
the,
interest.
yes.
Yeah, I can attest.
I don't think I have to accuse myself.
No.
No, I can attest.
There'll be no more children born.
Thank you for that clarification.
I can attest, I've watched.
Yes, my children.
White Plains is really a success story. I in my prior days, that was a struggling institution. It was a
Yes.
HUD-financed struggling institution, and thanks, a lot of credit to the team there under new leadership have really turned the facility around. And that has become a focal point of the system in terms of additional growth and opportunity. So yes.
And the
We
construction
just
seems to be
approved-
going well.
Yeah, we just approved additional cardiology services to be
At White
occurring.
Plains.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable with Montefiore's current belief that going forward, strategic growth will be obtained not through acquisition, but through the improvement of services in existing institutions. You all, that's what you're being told, and that's what you think will be the case.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far as to say that they would not acquire in the future. I think they're pausing on the actual entering into any purchase of hospitals right now. They may choose to partner in a different way other than acquiring
Sure.
assets of a hospital. They're certainly still working with us, very much so, in other communities, because they have a vested interest in those communities because they are part of their service area. And I think they are taking stock in what they need to do to manage and get the infrastructure of the system where it needs to be to handle the growth they've already achieved.
Thank you both. Thank you, both of you, Portia and Tracy, for pointing out that the BBB rating, though it requires an exception to DASNY provisions, is still very much investment grade. And that even if they were to fall off a notch, and nobody knows what may happen, they would remain investment grade.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for taking the time and to make some of us very comfortable with doing this.
And their payer mix is a pretty decent mix, right? I mean,
They are more weighted toward governmental payers as a safety net provider. They do have about a third commercial payer mix also. I think part of their strategy is trying to balance that a little bit better. And
which
that's-
probably leads into the White Plains piece.
Exactly. But they by no means are, they are one of the most mission-driven organizations in terms of serving communities. So they they're continuing that commitment. It's just having a mechanism to support them.
Gerard, I don't know whether it's relevant to the presentation, but I think it's true, I believe it's true, that Montefiore is the only member of the obligated group.
That's correct.
And you may have said that, and
I did not say that.
Okay.
It's worth mentioning.
I may also just point out that the refunding component actually does provide net present value savings. So we also looked at that, and that's favorable. And the structure of the debt is something we also took a look at. There is a 7-year deferral of interest, deferral of principal. This is to essentially achieve an overall aggregate level debt service, which is consistent with the issuance we did in 2018. So now they're looking at this new issue, they're layering it onto the existing debt structure with a goal to maintain an overall aggregate level debt service. So, while we would say, again, straight amortization might achieve less interest expense, when you're trying to balance that with your access to capital and keeping your cash flow margins where they need to be, from a system perspective, there's a benefit to having an aggregate level debt service. So we are supportive of that as well.
And the other projects, not so much the White Plains, but the capital projects at Montefiore, at the main medical center, and whatever else they're doing with the other 60 million. Does that go through some level of review, even if it's not a formal approval, or? Like,
yeah, there's required notices that they have to send to the department. It doesn't trigger any CON need criteria, but we do look at them in terms of filing a notice.
The regulatory reviews of the Department of Health don't change.
That's right.
Depending on whether we're financing under the NIC statute or the DASNY statute.
That's correct. So to the point of the taxable issuance, should they proceed and do a taxable issuance, they would have to come to us with the certificate of need if they were to do any investment going forward. And it's only at that time that the interest associated with the debt, if they wanted to claim it, would be available for capital reimbursement purposes. So without getting too technical, they can't claim any of the interest expense associated with any taxable issuance until it's connected to a project that the department approves. So that's another control on the, level of capital reimbursement that we have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions or concerns? Any from our visiting board members? Anybody? John or? Hearing none. Can I please get a motion to recommend approval of this offering at tomorrow's full board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion carries. Thank you very much, Portia. Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you very much, Gerard. Next up, we stay with Gerard on number 7, behind tab 7. It's the Interagency Council of Developmental Disability Agencies offering. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee, the staff report provided the members seeking authorization for a resolution to proceed for the Interagency Council of Developmental Disabilities. This transaction will include tax-exempt and/or taxable, fixed and/or variable rate bonds in one or more series at one or more times for a negotiated sale and/or a private placement. The purpose of the transaction is to refinance existing bank loans and reimburse certain institutions for cash expenditures which are used to renovate or acquire certain properties used to provide services for the developmentally disabled. I did want to just point one issue out in my report that I provided under the Young Adult Institute, also known as YAI. That project includes 8 PPA-approved projects in the amount of $8.6 million. At one point, they were contemplating a project project that was a non-PPA, and that is what you would see on your under your new issue details under the purpose. So because the PPAs are such a critical issue, I just want to make sure that everybody understands in case they had noticed that by any chance. So on a program level, this will be the 14th financing for the Interagency Council. It's a pooled financing, and there are 5 participants. It's for a term not to exceed 26 years and an amount not to exceed $22 million. Each borrower will have their own loan agreement. Security features include a pledge of all public funds attributable to each finance project, a standby intercept of these public funds attributable to each project, a debt service reserve fund of 6 months debt service, and mortgages on real property acceptable to DASNY where available. I referenced the PPAs. I just want to sort of highlight, because this is sort of the backbone of this particular program. To initiate the development of a project to serve individuals with developmental disabilities, PPA is required. The not-for-profit provider is required to complete a CON, or certificate of need, which is reviewed by OPWDD for compliance and need. Ultimately, the projects are supported through contract and reimbursement arrangements with OPWDD, and the state commits to support the development and operation of the project if it is completed and in conformance with the PPA. Project funding is subject to annual appropriation of sufficient monies by the state legislature, and prior property approvals are in place for the 17 proposed projects. There is, I think on table 2, there is a small non-component or a non-PPA component, which are relatively immaterial. The projects are expected to have a replacement operator component as well. We anticipate a AA2 rating from Moody's. The state's programs and policies demonstrate the essentiality of community-based services to the developmentally disabled population in the state of New York, and the 5 borrowers in this pool have had experience in providing needed services to this population. Accordingly, the staff report recommends that the board adopt a resolution to proceed with 1 or more series of bonds with maturities not to exceed 26 years and an aggregate amount not to exceed $22 million. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Rose. Any comments, concerns, questions?
One, actually, a good one. Great report.
Thank you.
I can't imagine issuance bonds. There's on page 2 so if you go to the page entitled Interagency Council, which is the second full page of the stack, there is a public purpose essentiality paragraph in the first column on page 2 of that. So it's right there. The last sentence of that, and I just, as we're taking to this, these community-based service providers deliver an essential function of state government and combined are so numerous, the state system serving developmentally disabled individuals cannot exist without. What a fabulous reason for us to consider this financial. I thought getting that into the record might be a good idea.
Thank you very much, Al. We certainly wholeheartedly agree with that.
Thank you, sir.
One of the good things we do here. Right. Anyway, so on that note, I guess I'll ask for a motion to recommend approval at tomorrow's full board meeting. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Tracy, for seconding. All in favor, aye. They're clearly unopposed. That motion carries. Okay, so we now move on to tab 8. Dave, let's go there. Columbia University.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board 1 or more series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and/or variable rate bonds with terms not to exceed 40 years and an amount not to exceed $150 million on behalf of Columbia University. This will be a new money issuance to finance numerous projects located throughout the Columbia University system. A major portion of the project includes work associated with the ongoing construction of Columbia's new business school, which will be located on the Manhattanville campus. The business school's new home will span approximately 492,000 square feet across 2 buildings, incorporating flexible classroom space with the latest technology, dedicated spaces for recruiting, events and networking space, and an alumni welcome center. The business school project will include the creation of a 40,000 square foot public square that will be located between the 2 new buildings. Construction of the facility is ongoing and is expected to be completed in 2021. The remaining projects to be financed include various renovations at the Morningside Heights and Medical Center campuses. As far as the structure, this will be a tax-exempt fixed rate issuance. For the security, the university is currently rated AAA by both Moody's and S&P, both with a stable outlook. And accordingly, Columbia qualifies for an unsecured borrowing under DASNY's financing guidelines for independent institutions. Some additional information on Columbia. The university continues to experience positive demand and enrollment trends and remains among the most selective universities in the country. Of the 40,203 applicants for fall of 2018, just 2,260 were accepted, indicating an acceptance rate of 5.6%. Columbia has consistently reported positive operating margins, averaging 5.1% annually over the last 5 years. The university's overall revenue mix is diverse. For fiscal year 2019, 24% of the university's total operating revenues came from net tuition increase. And lastly, total net assets have increased by 17.2% over 5 years, reaching $16 billion at the end of fiscal year 2019. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Questions?
No, sir, none.
Sir? I had one quick one, just to confirm. I'm not aware of any, but there's no substantial type of community opposition of the construction of the business school or anything like that?
Not for these projects that we're financing.
I understand as well. Thank you very much. So I am requesting a motion to recommend approval, unless anyone else has any questions down the end. John and good. Motion to recommend approval at tomorrow's full board meeting. Thank you. Second, all in favor, aye. That
Aye.
motion carries. Thank you very much, David. Steve is, there he is, okay. That's behind tab 9, the NYSOC offering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend approval by the full board, a 25-year fixed rate tax exempt and/or taxable bond issue in an amount not to exceed $40 million on behalf of NYSARC Inc. NYSARC is a leading advocate and service provider for the developmentally disabled. Chartered in 1949, NYSARC is a not-for-profit corporation that through its 51 chapters currently serves over 60,000 people. The programs and services provided by NYSARC are state mandated and supported. Our experience with NYSARC goes back to 1988, and NYSARC has always paid its debt service on time and in full. As of September 30th, NYSARC had approximately $78 million in DASNY bonds outstanding. The projects included in this financing are expected to be approximately 15 new money projects, including individualized residential alternatives and rehabilitation facilities for approximately 6 participating chapters, the refinancing of taxable indebtedness for approximately 27 projects for approximately 7 participating chapters, and the refunding of NYSARC's DASNY Series 2010A bonds, which has approximately $16.2 million outstanding. And net present value savings are estimated to be approximately $1.8 million, or 11.4% of the bonds being refunded. Expected ratings are AA2 by Moody's. Security is expected to include a pledge and assignment of certain public funds allocable to participating NYSARC chapters. The statutory authority to intercept this aid in the event that NYSARC defaults in the payment of debt service under the loan agreement or fails to replenish the debt service reserve fund after a withdrawal, mortgages on certain real property, and a debt service reserve fund. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions or concerns? And I think also, Al, that fits within our mission as well. As what we just talked about. I just had one question, probably. What is the IRA? What's the initials?
Those are residential facilities for.
Like independent residential assisted facilities or something like that? Okay, that's right.
Housing.
Thank you.
You made that up.
What's it? Sounded good. I didn't think it was, whatever. No question. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to recommend approval at tomorrow's full board? Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Steve, you're still up. Behind 10 is St. Joseph's College.
Thank you. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend the full board the adoption of a resolution to proceed for a fixed and/or variable rate tax exempt and/or taxable bond issue to be issued through either a negotiated sale or private placement with a not to exceed amount of $32 million on behalf of St. Joseph's College. The current expectation is the 2020 bonds will be a fixed rate negotiated sale. The college has two non-residential campuses. The Brooklyn campus is in the Clinton Hill neighborhood and includes 7 buildings across 3 blocks. The Long Island campus is set on 32 acres in Patchogue. The college offers more than 50 undergraduate majors, pre-professional and certificate programs with graduate degrees in management, business, healthcare management, human services, nursing, accounting, and education. The college has limited debt obligations with a single series of DASNY bonds, its only long-term debt outstanding. In 2010, DASNY issued $27.8 million on behalf of the college, and there's currently approximately $21.2 million outstanding. The college plans to refund these bonds with no principal deferral and no extension of the final maturity. The refunding is estimated to result in net present value savings of approximately $3.8 million, which equates to 18% of the bonds being refunded. Gross annual debt service savings is approximately $465,000. College also plans to issue new money bonds to finance a portion of the cost of constructing a new 38,000 square foot student center on its Long Island campus. The student center will provide more appropriate instruction space, serve as a gathering place for students between classes, and offer opportunities for auxiliary income. The student center is expected to help maintain and increase enrollment and be a focal point for student and community activities on the campus. The total project is expected to cost approximately $13 million, with approximately $8.6 million being financed through the proposed bond issue, and the balance coming from gifts, fundraising, and cash reserves. The new money bonds are expected to be amortized over 30 years. Gross annual debt service on the new money is expected to be approximately $465,000, which is also the estimated gross annual savings on the refunding, which is how the school's management and board is looking at the financing overall. Therefore, total annual debt service following the proposed financing will be roughly the same as today, which is approximately $2 million per year until 2035, and would then drop to approximately $465,000 from 2036 through 2050. The bonds are expected to have a Fitch rating in the BBB category. Security is expected to include a mortgage, a pledge of revenues, and financial covenants. Regarding the credit, the college is highly vulnerable to fluctuations in enrollment, with approximately 89% of total operating revenues coming from net tuition and fees. The college's annual net tuition and fees per student are among the lowest of all private colleges on Long Island and in the tri-state area. Despite this, the college's FTE enrollment declined from approximately 5,000 students in the fall of 2010 to approximately 4,100 students in the fall of 2015. The college's decrease in enrollment was reflected in its operating results. The college reported negative operating margins each year from 2011 until 2016. This led to the college failing to meet its debt service coverage covenant requirement from 2011 to 2016 and its unrestricted resources to debt ratio covenant requirement from 2015 to 2017. Failure to meet the required covenant levels are not considered a default under the loan agreement. However, in 2016, DASNY exercised its right to require the college to engage a management consultant, and the college complied. The college stabilized enrollment over the past 5 years by adding certain graduate courses and providing flexibility with online and weekend programs and providing additional financial support. FTE enrollment increased from 4,105 students in the fall of 2015 to 4,529 students in the fall of 2019. With the improved enrollment, St. Joseph's has reported positive operating margins in each of the past 3 years, and has been in compliance with all financial covenants the past 2 years. Debt service coverage has improved from 0.1 to 1 in 2015 to 5.3 to 1 in 2019. Over the past 5 years, net tuition per student has increased from approximately $15,800 to approximately $18,100. Total net assets have increased from approximately $65 million in 2016 to approximately $91 million in 2019. So to summarize, the college is highly tuition dependent. Enrollment dropped from 2010 to 2015 and has since increased and stabilized at a level that has produced positive operating results. The proposed issuance will refund the Series 2010 bonds with estimated annual gross savings, which will offset the annual debt service associated with the new money project. Therefore, staff is requesting the Finance Committee to recommend approval by the full board tomorrow for an amount not to exceed $32 million on behalf of St. Joseph's College. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions or concerns?
I didn't have any, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah, just to clarify, the management consultant came in, stabilized the enrollment, and the trigger for decreasing the enrollment that occurred in 2010. You know what that?
Yeah, they really attribute it just to the general economy, the downturn in the economy, and changing demographics. Fewer graduating students, and then just on top of that, the economic downturn beginning in 2008 led to overall decrease in enrollment, which is consistent with what we've seen in other private institutions.
The fact that the plan of adding to the base of what they provide, the graduate programs, as you can see it in the numbers have stabilized. I was just wondering if there was something that would re-trigger that.
No, they really attribute it to the change in the programming and the evening and weekend course offerings, which better matches a lot of the prospective students that they market to as a commuter school.
Is that new center finished?
No, that is not under construction.
Underway? Is it?
It's under the design phase, and they plan to begin it
It
in
just looks cheap. A
2020.
38,000 square feet building, it's only $8 million?
The overall cost is $13 million, and they plan to finance $8 million of the overall $13 million budget.
Still 13 million? And the mortgage goes on what? Goes on that property or
That, I believe it's in the
Patchogue
Yeah.
campus, where it's related to?
Related to the Patchogue campus.
I guess they just felt the need to sort of compete. I guess they need the newer building. I guess that's for them to decide.
Right. I mean, they're really viewing using the savings as a way to invest in a project that they think will help stabilize and improve enrollment. And this new student center, as a commuter school, gives students a place to go in between classes, and they think it will help with retention and.
I get all their payroll taxes under control.
What's that?
Okay,
Well,
can I get a motion?
I had one
yeah,
other question.
yes.
I mean, in the history, there's never been, this were technical covenant faults, no missed payments.
Yeah, nothing that would be a default for the bonds. They always pay their debt service on time and fall.
And the refunding is a current refunding that we're doing?
Yes, so they plan to close on or after April 3rd. They're callable July 1st, so that would qualify as a current refunding.
The Brooklyn campus does I don't know the Patchogue campus, the Brooklyn campus is very popular with students, right? I mean, I think it's a very well-respected institution in Brooklyn, I think.
I think so, and I think
Yeah.
overall, the majority of the enrollment is on the Patchogue campus, but I think within their communities, as commuter schools, they're both well-respected.
Motion, good, second, all in favor? Aye. That was a motion to recommend approval.
Yeah, I got it.
In case we missed
I'm all
that,
over
but yes, I was shortening that process up a bit.
Sorry, we missed that role.
Am I done, Portia? I think I'm done. Anybody have any questions or any other concerns? Hearing none. I'll get a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Tracy. Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a nice beginning to 2020.